stopping the meeting. We just want to get some responsible adult, communication and try to do the right thing by this.
Logistics, but because two trustees
Buckle up because we're diving into one of the wildest re-election sagas you'll ever witness. Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dalton, Illinois, is making another bid for office, and it's shaping up to be nothing short of a political disaster. Imagine a political thriller spiced with reality TV-level drama and wrapped in absolute chaos. This is Henyard's desperate attempt to hold on to power. What's packed into an untenable locker, and what's worth the cost? Well, who doesn't love a good... With her approval ratings tanking to a humiliating single-digit figure, you'd think she'd reconsider. But no. Henyard marches forward, acting as though victory is well within reach. At the heart of this whirlwind lies her controversial leadership, plagued by scandals, mismanagement, and a growing public outcry. Add to this an FBI investigation hanging over her administration and an eviction lawsuit filed by her landlord, and you've got a scandal-ridden political soap opera. The residents of Dalton, who once pinned their hopes on her leadership, are now running out of patience. Widespread frustration and disappointment have replaced any optimism they once had. Yet, despite this wave of discontent, Henyard seems determined to transform her campaign into what many are calling an outrageous display of political theater. Take her infamous Thanksgiving turkey giveaways, for example. While some saw it as a kind gesture, most residents saw through the act, a last-ditch effort to divert attention from Dalton's spiraling financial crisis. Trustee Christopher Gonzalez wasn't shy about calling it out, questioning the mayor's motives and accusing her of using public events to mask fiscal chaos. And the financial mismanagement is no secret, and the parted sense of unexplained budget gaps and reckless spending, including an eye-popping $43,000 splurge on Amazon in just one day, have sparked outrage. Henyard's defense? She claims these expenses were essential for township programs, but her critics argue otherwise, seeing it as a blatant misuse of taxpayer money. The drama doesn't stop there. Accusations of an authoritarian leadership style have surfaced, with claims of intimidation tactics and retaliation. Local businesses are speaking out, alleging that those who refuse to donate to her campaign face harsh consequences, from fabricated violations to revoked licenses. One such victim, Lawrence Gardner, a trucking company owner, says his business was shut down simply for refusing to play along. And let's not forget the chaos surrounding the vacant trustee seat. After Jerry Jones's resignation, Henyard has been relentless in her attempt to appoint a loyalist before the December deadline, effectively bypassing the public vote. Trustees Gonzalez and Carvin Carrillet have taken a stand, boycotting meetings to prevent her from gaining the quorum needed to push her agenda. But instead of addressing these issues, Henyard has taken to social media with fiery rants, accusing her critics of being conspirators out to destroy her name. In one particularly explosive live stream, she declared, "When I sue everybody, I'm coming for defaming my name and character." With lawsuits, investigations, and public outrage swirling, the question remains: can Tiffany Henyard survive this political firestorm, or is this the final chapter of her controversial tenure? The calls for Tiffany Henyard's resignation are growing louder, with frustrated residents packing recent board meetings to express their outrage. "This is an embarrassment to Dalton," one resident declared. "Why won't you step down?" But for Henyard, stepping down isn't on the table. Instead, she presses on, clinging to her super mayor persona, in the hope that it can somehow carry her through the storm. Whether this is sheer determination or a refusal to face reality, one thing is undeniable: Henyard's re-election campaign is shaping up to be one of the most chaotic and unprecedented political dramas Dalton has ever witnessed. Her leadership hasn't just plunged the township into financial disarray, it's also exposed glaring deficiencies in basic services. Take, for instance, the winter debacle that left Dalton buried in chaos, literally. During a particularly harsh snowstorm, residents were left stranded on treacherously icy roads that went uncleared for days. Neighborhoods once bustling with activity turned into hazardous obstacle courses as complaints of accidents, injuries, and delays poured in. Rather than addressing the crisis head-on, Henyard appeared indifferent, if not outright dismissive. While Dalton residents battled icy conditions, their mayor was busy cultivating her online persona, flooding social media with self-promotional posts and selfies unrelated to the town's plight. This stark disconnect between her curated image and the harsh reality on the ground only deepened the erosion of public trust in her leadership. For many, the snow removal failure wasn't just an isolated incident, but a glaring symbol of her administration's neglect and mismanagement. While neighboring communities cleared their streets and restored normalcy, Dalton's inefficiency stood in stark contrast. Critics were quick to point out that a township with a multi-million-dollar budget surplus had failed at something as fundamental as clearing snow, a failure that seemed to embody the administration's broader shortcomings. Public outrage reached a fever pitch during heated town hall meetings, with residents demanding accountability and answers. Some even called for Henyard's resignation, accusing her of being out of touch and dangerously ineffective. "We're out here risking our lives and she's posting on Facebook," one furious resident exclaimed. Henyard tried to deflect the criticism, attributing the snow removal crisis to unforeseen circumstances and logistical issues. But for most residents, her explanations felt like hollow excuses, further fueling the fire of their dissatisfaction. The lingering impact of this winter catastrophe served as a harsh reminder of the administration's failure to prioritize the community's needs. Beyond snow removal, Henyard's relationship with local businesses has been equally fraught. Many business owners have come forward alleging obstruction and intimidation under her leadership. The most damning example comes from Lawrence Gardner, a local trucking company owner, who claims his business was effectively shut down after he refused to contribute to Henyard's campaign. Gardner's story has become a rallying cry for critics, encapsulating the growing frustration with a mayor who many believe prioritizes personal gain over public. Lawrence Gardner didn't mince words when he compared Tiffany Henyard to a notorious drug kingpin from the iconic film New Jack City. His remark underscored what many in Dalton have come to believe: a culture of coercion and intimidation now defines her administration. For residents, this isn't just a case of poor governance. It's an outright abuse of power. Instead of focusing on the needs of the township, Henyard's actions paint a picture of a leader more preoccupied with personal gain and political survival. Public outrage has boiled over, with residents demanding accountability and a new direction for Dalton. The frustration isn't limited to local businesses. Henyard has also alienated the town's religious leaders. Once
Very disturbing to hear these things or to kind of see some of the receipts that appear to be connected to it. And I think the taxpayers really
pillars of the community, these churches have grown wary of Henyard's motives. What was once a collaborative relationship between her administration and local faith institutions has eroded, replaced by mistrust and discontent. For many residents, this breakdown signifies the loss of a vital connection in the community. Calls for Henyard's resignation are now deafening. Citizens are demanding leadership that prioritizes transparency, accountability, and a genuine commitment to the well-being of Dalton. The consensus is clear: the township deserves better. The era of neglect and dysfunction must end, and the time for change is long overdue. Yet, despite mounting public pressure, Henyard remains defiant. I interrupted. Her chaotic re-election campaign has left a trail of discontent and frustration, raising doubts about whether she can weather the storm or if Dalton will finally see a new leader emerge. With her administration under fire and her approval ratings plummeting, the coming months will determine not just Henyard's fate, but also the future of Dalton itself. But the scandals don't stop there. Henyard's administration faces an ongoing FBI investigation that casts a long shadow over her political ambitions. Federal agents are scrutinizing records tied to alleged misuse of taxpayer funds and dubious contracts involving Dalton and neighboring Thornton Township. These allegations of fiscal mismanagement have only added to, the sense of betrayal felt by residents. And it's Henyard, of course, vehemently denies any wrongdoing. Yet the investigation looms large, fueling speculation that her desperate bid for re-election is less about serving the community and more about avoiding potential criminal charges. For many in Dalton, this election is no longer just about leadership. It's about accountability and the chance to restore integrity to their government. With trustees Christopher Gonzalez and Carmen Carey refusing to attend board meetings, Henyard has been unable to push forward her agenda. Without their presence, the board lacks the quorum needed to make decisions, leaving the township in a state of political paralysis. Meanwhile, the specter of federal scrutiny grows ever larger, overshadowing every move she makes. For the people of Dalton, the stakes couldn't be higher. They're not just choosing a mayor. They're deciding whether their township will continue down this path of chaos or finally embrace a future of transparency and effective governance. One thing is certain, Henyard's re-election campaign has become a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of what happens when a leader loses sight of the people they were elected to serve. How bad? Dalton residents have reached their breaking point with Tiffany Henyard's turbulent leadership. Under her tenure, the town has grappled with unexplained budget deficits, allegations of extravagant spending, and rampant cronyism, all of which have ignited widespread public outrage. Town meetings are packed with frustrated voices demanding her resignation, and social media has become a battleground for discontent, with residents rallying against her leadership. Henyard's narrow victory in the previous election remains a sore point for many, serving as a rallying cry for those determined to bring about change. Critics argue that her administration highlights systemic failures in local governance and question why higher authorities have allowed her to remain in power despite glaring red flags. You look more closely at the local border crossing, you have to see them under a mask. I'm driving past. So you see them under a last crossing. With Election Day fast approaching, Dalton faces a decisive moment. Will voters hold Henyard accountable and demand an end to her controversial tenure, or will she somehow navigate the chaos to cling to power? The odds seem stacked against her. Henyard's re-election campaign is weighed down by ongoing legal battles, financial scandals, and intensifying public hostility. Instead of addressing the community's concerns, her bizarre campaign tactics and consistent deflection of blame have only added fuel to the fire. One scandal in particular has drawn attention to her personal life. Henyard and her boyfriend, Kay Woods, are embroiled in an eviction lawsuit for unpaid rent. The case, filed by her former landlord and friend Janetta Hall, paints a troubling picture of irresponsibility. Though seemingly minor compared to her larger controversies, this lawsuit underscores a pattern of mismanagement that extends from her personal finances to her leadership of Dalton. Is yet another example of the chaotic, reckless governance that has come to define her administration. Henyard's leadership style has been described as authoritarian and confrontational, with allegations of using the police department as a tool for intimidation. Trustee Kay Belcher alleges that former police chief Robert Collins admitted to receiving directives from Henyard to target specific individuals. Go around a little further. These accusations paint a chilling portrait of a leader more focused on consolidating power than addressing her community's needs. Adding to the controversy is Henyard's reliance on an exorbitant security detail that reportedly costs over $1 million, a staggering expense for a town already struggling financially. This blatant prioritization of her own safety over the needs of Dalton residents has only deepened the public's mistrust. The disconnect between Henyard's public persona and her actions couldn't be more stark. While she portrays herself as a strong and effective leader, her administration's lavish spending, questionable contracts, and ongoing legal troubles tell a very different story. The irony of her re-election campaign, running concurrently with her eviction lawsuit for unpaid rent, has not been lost on residents. For many, this hypocrisy underscores the perception of a leader woefully out of touch with the challenges faced by ordinary citizens. Her troubles extend beyond public perception. Recent court rulings have invalidated key appointments made by Henyard, including Michael Smith as executive assistant and special counsel. These legal blows further destabilize her administration, reflecting not only public discontent, but also growing skepticism from the judicial system. As the election draws closer, Henyard's re-election bid is rapidly transforming into a referendum on her entire tenure. Generation. Dalton's voters are faced with a critical choice: to continue enduring the chaos and scandals that have marred her administration, or to demand accountability and chart a new course for their town. For Henyard, the pressure to confront her leadership failures is mounting. The scandals, legal battles, and cries for her resignation have turned her campaign into a high-stakes gamble. The question remains, will Dalton finally see the change its residents desperately seek? Or will Henyard defy the odds and survive this storm of controversy? Thornton Township's repeated meeting cancellations expose a deep divide in local government, driven by trustees Christopher Gonzalez and Carmen Carlisle's strategic absence to block Supervisor Tiffany Henyard's agenda. By denying a quorum, they aim to prevent what they see as Henyard's overreach and push for transparency, particularly regarding her rushed effort to fill a vacant trustee seat before elections. Gonzalez and Carlisle insist the decision should be left to voters, not unilaterally made by Henyard.